Hey, wonderful family and friends. I just wanted to get back with you before the day ended. I did get up this morning, took my walk, and took some pictures, so I'll try and share those out later. I came back, I did just a little bit of laundry and a little bit of housework because I hate it. I had a late lunch, came outside, did some yard work, and now I'm back out working in the yard and decided to take a break and finally touch base. On my walk this morning, a couple things kept resonating in my mind and in my heart, and um, one of them being that a couple of people got back with me, text me, whatever, and said, they were surprised in the last video to hear me refer to myself as broken. And that I guess broken is not a way that they would ever have thought of me or ever described me. So I just, first of all, want to say thank you. I'm glad that you don't. And that's just a testimony of how much God has restored and rebuilt. So I'm grateful that you don't see me in that way. But at that time, I don't want to depress y'all or bring you down, but I just need to be honest and humble and vulnerable, and I meant it when I said I was broken. The experience that I was having at that moment left me feeling exactly that. And it was a frightening place for me because, as most of y'all said, they've always seen me as kind of a independent, outspoken person, and I would have said that I was. And even in my family, in my marriage, when things would be said or done, I stood up. I said, now wait a minute, that's not okay. It's not okay to say those things or to treat me that way. And I could even you know tell you why biblically, point out anything the Bible says, and as my husband and as your wife, and all those things. And so I would have said that, I never was one that allowed myself to be abused or talked down to. And I was independent and outspoken about that. In fact, I had even during that period of time met with, several families, a few couples that were having marital problems or going through things that were stressing their marriages. And I can remember sitting across from other women and even men, and they would share out things that had been said to them or done to them by a spouse, and that had just crushed them. And I remember it hurting me and breaking my heart that they were sitting in front of me repeating it because they believed it, and it broke my heart. I never could understand like why they kept going back. And I would even say, you understand that that's not truth, right? You are beautiful, you are wonderfully made, you are all these things. Um, so, jump ahead a bit, long story short, I did end up, of course, asking for a divorce. And so now here I am, going through the divorce, living separate of my husband. And all of a sudden, I found myself, like I said, broken. Hearing things that I had never believed about myself, things that had been said by my husband to me. And I guess that had apparently taken root and set up home in my heart. And, I shared I didn't even recognize the woman in the mirror. I mean, she looked tired, she was overwhelmed, she was struggling. I could see the whole list of things which I needed to do and get done and accomplish, but I felt so inadequate and saw nothing good about me that was going to allow me to do that. And it was a frightening time. And so I realized I had to keep moving, right? I had to function because I had three beautiful children to support and take care of, and who were dependent upon me financially and physically, but also emotionally and spiritually. And so I can remember thinking, that all those things that had been said were true, that, I was dumb, I was uneducated or not as educated, I was ugly, fat, that people, were overwhelmed by me. No one really cared to hear anything that I had to say. And that, I may think that people cared, but they didn't. They just tolerated me. And suddenly, when I found myself alone and trying to recreate our lives, I heard those things in my own head, and they were things I was saying to myself. And so, like, even when I had put out several resumes, and when I would go to an interview, I can remember sitting out in my vehicle and just perspiring and, having a panic attack because I just was terrified about going in, and I thought, I'm going to go in and I'm going to sit across from this person, and they're going to be thinking, she's so dumb. Oh my gosh, that was so stupid. What was that? Why would she say that? Why would she even think she should be interviewing for this job? And I was terrified. I thought, I'm never going to be able to do this. I'm not adequate. I don't have the education. I'll never be able to raise these children on my own. All the things that have been said to me. And it got so bad that finally I can remember crying out to God, and saying, Lord, I need your help because I am so broken. I don't recognize myself. Everything I believe about myself is horrible. It's terrible. All the things that were said to me, I now say to myself, and I believe them, God. I believe them, and it's crushing me. It's breaking me, and I need your help. And I just cried out and asked God to please speak to me. Somehow, Lord, if the things that have been said to me, the things that I'm believing or that I now say to myself aren't true, if you see anything different or anything good about me, I need you to tell me, show me, somehow get that message to me because I believe it. And I hated myself. I really did. And so in that, I did just as I had told you all I do. I tried to find that quiet place and, just get quiet, be still, know that He is God, and, recenter myself. I got into the Word, and I went to God with, those questions, who do you say I am, God? Do you say I'm worthy? What is love even? What does it even look like? And so, anyway, there were many scriptures that I came across, things that I read, but there was one that really stuck out in my mind. And crazy enough, I told you all in the last video I had been reading through the prophets just because, we're facing this pandemic thing, and it's like, wow, big stuff. And I guess I kind of identify the prophets as having been in that situation, having to go forth and say things that they knew would put their lives at risk, or things that were going to devastate and hurt the people that they loved, because God was about to, lay low Israel and Judah and separate them from their homeland and allow them to be taken captive. And it was just a frightening time. So I've been reading through those lately, and I was reading in Zephaniah this morning, and unbelievably I came across that one scripture that I'd never really heard or thought about when it came to love or God's thoughts for me. And I just wanted to share them with you. And those are found in Zephaniah 3:15, I think. Let me look, because I did bring my Bible and I did mark it because I don't know it by heart, so sorry. I'm not that good. Okay, Zephaniah 3:17, and it reads, "The Lord your God is living among you. He is a mighty warrior, a mighty one who will save you. He will take delight in you with gladness. With his love he will quiet you. He will calm all your fears. He will rejoice over you with joyful songs and singing." And I thought, wow, the Lord delighted in me. He took gladness over me. But more than that, I heard He loved me, and that with His love, He would quiet me. He would calm all my fears. And I didn't feel quiet. I felt at war. I couldn't sleep. I was having trouble eating. I was struggling. And slowly over time, God began to restore what He said of me, how He said I was created, what His plans were for me, and He delivered me from that time and restored me, and I'm very grateful for that. But it was a tough time, and I was broken, and I guess I wanted to answer that for you, because I think there's a lot of us who might be feeling broken now, and I think there are big things that we can go through that are obviously terrifying or defeating, and most of us would hear about those things and go, yeah, wow, that's got to be the worst news you could ever receive, or I don't even know how I would live through that experience. And we expect people to respond in that way to certain things, like, for example, a pandemic, or the death or serious illness of a loved one, a child who's ill or passes away and there's no explanation, a father killed on his way home, just a lot of serious things. Maybe it's a sudden loss of a job, all kinds of things that, most of us, if we heard it, would go, oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine, and really hurt and feel for that person. And then there are things that aren't so obvious. There are also those things that are, I think, more subtle. And I think when it comes to what I went through, what I experienced, those subtle messages that we get, and sometimes even through those who should love and protect us, can really take a toll on us, can really begin to seep into our very being and make themselves at home in our heart and in our mind, and to a point that suddenly all the terrible things that maybe are being said or have been done to us, we begin to believe we deserved, or we're not worthy, or we're just broken, we're not capable, able, educated, whatever. We could feel that. And I've always been this way. My family was dysfunction. My dad never, my mom never. I was. We have a lot of those things. But I think those subtle things, those subtle messages that come out of people who have dealt with abuse, maybe it's an abusive family, maybe it's not abuse, but maybe a family who neglected, or a spouse that hurt, maybe it was a stranger, maybe it was someone attacked on their way home. I don't know. There's just so many subtle things that can leave damage and resonate in us that can take us out if we're not careful. So I just kind of thought that, right now maybe some of us are going through that. Maybe we didn't have that wonderful beginning. We didn't have that great family. Maybe we don't have that support circle now. Many people are sitting at home alone. They have no one. And they're scared. They're frightened. Maybe they're feeling broken. Maybe their mind is saying, maybe their self-talk is, well, look what you did to yourself. Or, well, for all those things you did, or that addiction you had, you deserve this. No one deserves what is happening now. No one deserves to be abused, mistreated, neglected, left alone. No one deserves that. And that's not God's purpose. That's not why He created you. He created you in His image to have joy, and to appreciate and experience the life that He's given you for the gift that it is. And sometimes life makes that hard to do. Sometimes the people we run into, that we're born to, that we marry, make it hard for us to have that joy. But it is His plan, and He does love you. And, true love, God's love, it's His example, it's what He said, doesn't overwhelm you, doesn't bombard you, doesn't abuse you. It quiets you. True love quiets you. God's love quiets you. He is a mighty warrior. He is a mighty one who will save. He will quiet you with His love, and He will calm all your fears. Whether that's a pandemic, whether that's a self-image that needs to be restored, maybe that's a courage, a job, health. Maybe it's just healing because, I can't bring back that loved one. I can't make that situation go away. I've got to walk through it. God's got you. And He has great plans for you. And you matter to Him. So please don't let anyone steal that joy or steal that knowledge. Tuck it away and hold it at home in your heart, so that when you go through these tough times, when we go through things like this, we can remember we've got a God that loves us, that created us to walk amidst us, among us, with us, to quiet us, to calm our fears, and to rejoice and be glad over us. And He will restore whatever it is. He did for me. I was broken, but now I'm not. Right? I was lost, but now I'm found. Anyway, I hope that that's answered some of your questions. I hope it's given you maybe a little nugget of blessing, a little place of truth as to how important you are. So I just love you guys. I wish you all the best. I'm praying for everybody, and I miss my sidekick. So hopefully he's enjoying his time with his daddy, and he'll be home soon. So God bless. I'll talk to you later.